Welcome, everybody. It's Tuesday, April 13th, 2021. You're watching to another episode of Snooze Button, Run Button's mostly weekly morning show that sometimes isn't in the morning. And you're listening now, but you'll be watching later because we'll play a video game. I'm here with my cousin, Keith J. Carberry.
Hi, how's it going?
I'm okay. I'm not, well, all right. You want to be real? You want to be real, Keith?
Yes. I live for reality.
Yeah, I only keep it 100 in here. And
That's too hot for me. I like it around 70, 75.
Yeah, honestly, anything over 68 and I'm like sweating under my clothes, let's be honest. The pandemic year, the past year was a weird year, even in terms of how I consumed media.
In what way?
Yeah, well, even in terms of how I consumed media, there were some things that I just kind of skipped out on. Like probably my favorite, I mean, maybe just favorite podcast, but at least favorite video game podcast is the Waypoint Radio. But I just didn't. I listened to the first couple episodes after we all went into quarantine and then just kind of fell off of it and missed it for a year. And now I've been catching up. I've been catching up. So I'm literally listening to a year of Waypoints.
This is something that you've always done that I've never done, which is with a comedy podcast that I listen to, I will always catch up.
But
with a video game podcast, I'm I already know all that stuff. I don't need to learn it.
That's so funny because I'm the opposite. Because with a comedy podcast, I'm well, it's all just jokes, so I can just listen to any episode.
Right, but I don't know any of those jokes.
Right.
I already know that Halo Infinite got delayed.
Right, so exactly. So the problem here, well, actually what's funny is what actually keeps happening is I just keep forgetting that I'm listening to an old show, and I'm just listening to them talk about some new thing, and I'm ooh, this just came out, and actually it came out a year ago, or something like that. But
I thought you were gonna go the other way, which is you're listening to them talk about that Halo Infinite got delayed like it's news, and you're I learned this forever ago.
No, well, I think that's maybe part of why I waited so long to start listening was because I knew I didn't want to miss any episodes from the pandemic year, but I was also well, fuck, I really am sick and tired of listening to podcasters talk about it being a pandemic because it has been for a year and I'm just sick of it. But right. It's been okay, but I did recently get to June 1st in the podcasts, and that's been rough.
So you get to listen to everyone's increasing when is this going to be over, get guesses, the assumption that things are going to be over in the summer, and then it wasn't.
No, sorry. Yeah, there's that also, and it's been woof. But I meant June 1st, that's when we're fully in global protests in response to George Floyd's murder.
Right.
June 1st is also the day after I had my teeth broken, so that has its whole own host of feelings and emotions associated with it for me specifically. So that's just, you were hey, how are you doing? And I was and I'm kind of cards on the table. I'm in a weird place right now. But also, of course, went on Twitter this morning, and everyone on Twitter is just talking about the most recent black person to be killed by police. So that's been great.
And this has been a handful of shootings week. Sometimes you get a couple shootings in a week. Sometimes you get several shootings in one day, and it's I can't even.
Yeah, I don't even know how much. I mean, I was mostly just going on Twitter before. Now I don't even do that. I'm mostly just off in my own void at this point. That's exciting.
I haven't been on Twitter this week, really. I've seen snippets of things. I'm still in moving mode where I'm anytime that I'm not spent unpacking, I can't spend making myself feel bad, or I won't ever have no boxes in my kitchen.
Right. Yeah. Well, anyways, forget all that depressing stuff.
We're talking about
We're talking about the King of Kong.
Not depressing. No one in that story is depressed.
Well. Okay, all right. So you did well, you had a couple other things to. Well, I guess I haven't even asked you, how have you been?
Just moving.
Just moving.
Like the biggest thing that I did was I played the first 90 minutes of Yakuza 3.
Oh, okay.
Like I've either been moving or like trying to like do something to take my mind off moving, and then not, and like barely being able to get into it. Tried to watch Isaac and I tried to watch Revenge of the Sith, and we made it like 15 minutes of the way in. What do you mean?
Why would you do that?
We've been watching the prequels because
right.
So basically what happened was forever ago we watched the first 3 Star Wars movies and then never made it to the prequels, even though we wanted to watch them. Because the plan was to watch all of them in release order, because Isaac had not seen most of them, and instead we basically didn't do that. But I started watching the Clone Wars cartoon again, which I tried a couple times in the past and didn't click with, and I decided to give it one last shot and skip the first season. And just be like, I'm just not going to watch any of the first season. I've already tried the first 10 episodes twice and bounced off of it. If the show gets better, I'm just going to find out now.
Right.
And it does. A lot of it is really good. A lot of it is fine, and some of it sucks. But a lot of it's really good. There's really good stuff in there. So we ended up watching all of the Clone Wars cartoon up into the new season that got released. This is happening over the course of the last 5 months. This is happening. We got to the new season that was released like this year because it ended really abruptly and suddenly back when it was originally canceled, and so they brought on like an addendum season, and that season has a hidden time jump, unless I misread a situation really poorly, but it has a hidden time jump where all of Revenge of the Sith happens.
Okay.
Like there's like 3 episodes of the most recent season, and then the next episode, spoilers for Star Wars, sorry. In the next episode, they're like, Count Dooku's dead. All of a sudden, they're like, oh, they killed Count Dooku. And so Revenge of the Sith has happened. And so I paused it, and I was like, we have to go now watch the prequels.
Right.
We can no longer ignore the prequels here.
So this is really funny because I'm also living with somebody who hasn't watched Star Wars, and we've been talking about watching them. And also, one of those old Waypoint episodes I was just listening to, they just had a whole discussion about the Clone Wars cartoon, and I also was like, maybe I should just finally fucking bite the bullet and watch this goddamn show.
It's good. I think you would like it. I think that, again, some of it is not very good, but there's a lot of really good stuff in there.
Yeah, I think, everyone on Waypoint was positive enough about it. I was like, there must be something there. Also, I think Austin described it as baby's first dramatic irony, and I was like, oh, that's great. I'm a baby.
You've done dramatic irony before.
Yeah, but I just sometimes I love when things are for babies.
I've got to say, I have, and this is true almost every time I watch the prequels. I have never enjoyed the prequels so much. Every time I watch them, I become more sure about what is positive about them.
This is absolutely consistent with Keith Carberry's previous character arcs. You do for sure just like the prequels more every time you watch them.
I used to my motivation used to be that these movies were not very good, but that people's rage about how the prequels are the worst thing of all time is like psychotic and is born out of some deep sickness in nerd fandom shit. And I now am just like, no, Phantom Menace is mostly just fantastic.
I mean, yeah, I can't deny I've also come around massively, but even that massive turn, I feel like hasn't brought me so positive on the Phantom Menace. But
I would say that Phantom Menace is, if it's not the fourth best Star Wars movie, it is the fifth. It's either fourth or fifth best. It may be the best non-original trilogy movie.
I'll accept that.
Yeah.
Um.
And I've also partially come around on Attack of the Clones, which for a long time was my least favorite of the prequels. For a very long time was my least favorite of the prequels.
I think same for me.
And a few years ago, well, I say a few, it's in Star Wars language, it's been a few, but it's more like 6 years ago or something, I decided that actually Revenge of the Sith is the worst one. And I haven't rewatched it in a long time, so I don't know if I still think that that's true. Maybe I'll watch this one and go, actually, no, this one is better than Attack of the Clones. Who knows? But every time I watch it, I'm reacquainted with all of the things people didn't like about it because they didn't understand what was happening on the screen.
Yeah, like I totally think like Revenge of the Sith is like it to me, like, and maybe this is just like, you know, space opera or whatever, like, you know, and it's also because you were just talking about Mass Effect right before we went live, but I'm also thinking of like Mass Effect 3, where like it feels like maybe this is my mind's just on Mass Effect 3, but Mass Effect 3 is like totally a game that felt like it like collapsed under the weight of trying so hard to appeal to audiences. Like Revenge of the Sith felt like it was
Revenge of the Sith, yeah.
Revenge of the Sith felt like, not that there weren't problems with Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace, but it was also like the things the movies were kind of trying for, people super weren't getting. So it feels like Revenge of the Sith kind of like half doubles down on the worst parts of the prequels and half like tries to re-inject back in whatever it is they've decided people must want from a Star Wars. Yeah. Like just action scenes, you know, a villain who holds 4 lightsabers at once. I know you like General Grievous.
I do like General Grievous, yeah. Okay, so the thing for me about
killing younglings.
So I realized while watching Attack of the Clones that people's hatred of Hayden Christensen's Anakin is a microcosm of people's hatred of the Jedi as portrayed in the prequels broadly.
Yeah.
Which is that, so like, one of the major factors in the prequels getting a bad reputation is that people wanted to do the hey cool robot thing with Jedi and be like, hey, cool Jedi. Yeah. And the movie was trying to be like, sword. Actually, war is bad.
Yeah.
That was this is the meme version of the dynamic of why that movie did poorly, was that people just wanted to see the cool Jedi being cool. And Star Wars was like, no, these people ruined the world. Like, upon these people's backs, everything fell.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, you go.
Well, this is kind of an aside. I've never forgotten, like, the summer after Phantom Menace came out, and like even as an 8-year-old, like it was like a weird combination of like I loved it because I was 8, so of course I did, and also it's pretty good, but also like I still was like, here, I even as a kid was like, here's the things I wish a Star Wars movie had that this thing didn't have. And I remember like being in you remember Hit and Run?
I remember Hit and Run. Yeah.
I was in Hit and Run, the local collectible card game shop, basically. It still exists at a different location. But
you still banned?
Huh?
You still banned?
I'm not banned anymore. No. I mean, technically, I was never banned. We can't get into it. But anyways, I just remember like me and a couple other people were having like a, just sort of like a spontaneous Phantom Menace discussion broke out, and we were all discussing how we didn't like the Phantom Menace. And like one guy who like to me was an adult, but I'm sure was like 16 or something, I don't fucking know because I was a little kid, was like, yeah, I want to see like really cool stuff like a Sith who controls his lightsaber with the Force. And like even
that sounds
back
like an
then,
adult to me. Only an adult could think of something that cool.
Yeah, only an adult could think of something that cool. Like even back then, these like the people who like thought they were like leveling heavy and just critiques against this movie were also like, but what if you controlled the laser sword with your mind?
Yeah.
The two things we care most about Star Wars, the laser swords and moving stuff with your mind. What if we just put that together, cut out the middleman, just get straight to the juice? That's what people want.
It's funny because that's the movie that invented the lightsaber throw. So they did do that.
No, that was Luke threw his lightsaber in like Jedi or something.
And got
You're
it back.
Thinking of the dual-bladed lightsaber. They already had a villain with a double-sided lightsaber, and that wasn't like incredicool for this guy enough.
Yeah, and not to mention that 15 minutes into that movie, you've already got more lightsaber fighting than happens in the first two movies put together. Anyway, so this is beside the point. So
huge uptick in like lightsaber on screen time in the Phantom Menace for sure.
Yeah. So this is the thing that happened. I think everybody understands that this is the thing that happened. The thing that with Star Wars, which is that people wanted more cool Jedi stuff, but this was it was literally billed as the story of watching the Republic fall, and
Star Wars, the movie we came to talk about this week, Star Wars.
Right. So I just want to make this one point, and then we can move on to King of Kong, which is that the thing that hit me, which had never hit me before, is that people wanted the same thing from Anakin. People wanted the movie to try to humanize Anakin, and instead, and I can't, no value judgment, I will not try to say that like snot-nosed Anakin Skywalker in the first 15 minutes of this movie is like fun to watch, but like I will say that this is a movie that shows you a fucking teenage psychopath. I mean, he's like out of his mind with jealousy and with arrogance. He commits a small genocide on screen.
The problem for me with the Attack of the Clones, I felt like was like we don't see this turn in Anakin at all, right?
No.
Like he's just a precocious little kid in Phantom Menace. Hard cut to I'm an entitled jack off, who's who has a lot of.
They show you what's happening. They show you how he has a tainted relationship with Obi-Wan Kenobi, how he's tortured by dreams of his mother, how he watches her die in his arms, and then what?
They don't show them having a tainted relationship. They're riding that fucking elevator like, oh, we're buddies. We saved each other from the Snarlack or whatever the fuck.
Literally, one of the first things that happen is that they get into a fucking argument about how best to deal with Padme.
Right. Well, I think we all know how Anakin wanted to best deal with Padme.
Right, and Obi-Wan also knew that, and he tried his best to be fair, and Anakin was still a little baby about it.
Okay.
And no, I promise I just watched this. You're front loaded with toxicity between those two.
No, you're totally right, and I am. It may be Hayden Christensen was a little shrill and barky with how he would like portray these like complaints, but it is like he meets Padme, and it pretty quickly like they're having like not dinner or something. They're like hanging out at a dinner table but not eating, and he's moving fruit with his hands or whatever.
Yeah.
and he's like
that's like 45 minutes in, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he totally starts like unloading about how like Obi-Wan doesn't understand and he's the jerk and whatever.
Yeah.
And like I totally think you're right that like a lot of people's problems with that character is like he like Anakin is supposed to be like, in people's minds is supposed to be like the Luke Skywalker of this trilogy. He's
right,
the
but that's wrong. He's
the magic power super fighter who's awesome, and he's gonna be the greatest. And like, and we agree with that, and we want Obi-Wan to agree with that, and we're also annoyed that like not only is there not a cool late laser sword fight happening, but also this kid's like whining about how he doesn't get to do a laser fight.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. But we see, so it's really like it startled me how much Attack of the Clones Anakin is even more of is even more Kylo Ren than Kylo Ren was.
Oh sure. Yeah, okay.
Like it's interesting that Kylo Ren is like a stupid little brat who is way too sure of himself, is way too whiny about it, and all he wants to do is be of like Darth Vader and be respected and feared like Darth Vader was or whatever. And like wants to be recognized for all his dark power, or whatever bullshit. And like Anakin is literally that, but even more. And
you're right.
And even the only difference is that Anakin is still trying to be a Jedi because there isn't a history of Sith anymore. Like they don't know about that the Sith are constantly trying to tear apart the universe. He doesn't know any of that stuff. He's just sort of like in a war or whatever. So I think that the movie does like a totally like if your criticism is that Anakin Skywalker is not fun to watch, what I say is I agree, and maybe why do you want that? Because I don't think that there's also I meant to say this earlier, but I forgot. The stuff with him and Padme is really gross and weird, and the absolute worst thing about this movie is that they had to get together to make the original trilogy happen, and the way that they do that is just to make Padme look like a total fucking sucker.
Yeah,
and that
like
sucks. Because he's clearly a lunatic. He literally killed. I mean, he admits to killing a family or a whole town full of Tusken Raiders to her, the women and the children line.
Even the younglings,
which is really powerfully sickly emotional. Like
it is totally
people make
fucked
fun
up
of that scene, but it is bizarre. It is such a perfect scene of a kid who is like coming to grips with his dead mother and also just killed 80 people. Like
no, I agree. Like I think that moment is good too. I just think it all like it's just not well executed. Like if you plot out Anakin's like character arc through the movie, I just think like I remember it feeling just like a really sudden turn. It's like they keep trying to do the like, it's kind of like we have these romantic scenes between him and Padme, but then we have like the Anakin's dealing with his dark twisty feelings scenes, and like they're just not meshing at all. But I agree.
There's the stuff where like Padme is falling in love with him and is the absolute worst part.
Totally.
Any Star Wars movie. Not maybe. It is. It's the worst part of any Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, I came to the realization that people wanted like a sympathetic and humanized Anakin Skywalker from that movie, and it's just not what the movie was interested in giving, and also I don't think it should have been interested in giving you that. Like I'm not interested in them humanizing the fucking person who killed 80 sand people and then in the next movie went and killed a bunch of like
but I think children. I would argue those movies still do kind of try to humanize Anakin and don't do a great job. I think
Revenge of the Sith, I don't remember. I think you're probably right, but I think that's a reaction to to Attack of the Clones doing so poorly. My view on this movie is that there was essentially zero attempt made to make Anakin a sympathetic and likable character. And then the criticism that Anakin was not a sympathetic and likable character, like, to me, more than ever goes like, yeah, but where in this movie point to where he was meant to be sympathetic and likable? Everything about this movie makes you hate him.
Totally.
You know,
I think
the
we've
lunatic who killed half of the galaxy.
I think both today and in the past you've made a strong case in that direction, and I'm not disagreeing. In fact, I am agreeing. But I will temper it a bit by saying, like, all of this stuff, like, it's so funny because I will admit that for years I was too negative to the Star Wars prequels, but now I feel so often I want to jump in the opposite direction because, you know, like, we all hate guy who wants a Sith to control the lightsaber with the Force. Like, we all hate that guy. But, like, let's not jump to things like heaping too much praise upon, like, say, the political aspects of the stories and stuff. Like, you know, like, there's, like, the red letter media thing of, like, constantly showing the bit that they keep going back to is, like, showing the Senate scenes, but, like, superimposed on, like, a television that's in front of, like, two toddlers, like, to, you know, illustrate how silly it is that there's, like, a Senate debate scene in the middle of a movie that's supposedly for kids. And this is a thing you'll hear a lot of people say is like, it's all like dumb political stuff that doesn't make any sense or whatever. And, like,
that stuff is the best stuff.
It kind of is. Like, I don't want to say, like, it's not good, because I think now I can see that there was a lot more there was more meat on the bones of the political stuff in both the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy than people ever gave it credit for, especially me. But that's not to say it was well done. Like, no, like, if the political intrigue in The Phantom Menace was, like, genuinely great, I think it would have just been, would have been praised for that. But it's not good.
Counter argument, was it maybe so good? It was. Was it?
Yeah, no,
was
I agree.
It maybe. Sure. So here's the all of that political stuff was meant to show you that this was a fake war. This war doesn't exist. The war between the CIS and the Republic does not exist because the guy who's in charge of the Republic is also in charge of the Separatists. It's the same guy. The war is fake, and literally every single step of the political process that we see is just another point of Palpatine's machinations in order to get himself on the throne, using the war as a sort of puppet show to secure more power and to economically and militarily weaken the Republic so that he can easily just take it over from the inside. And one of the main criticisms of this show, of the thing, is, like, not understanding that that's what's happening.
Yeah. I'm thinking now.
His machinations are so good that people missed them in the movie that is about them.
Right.
And maybe that makes it a bad movie because people didn't pick up on a lot of those things. But maybe it makes it a really good movie because there's a lot of really good stuff people didn't understand also.
Right. And that's what I mean is, like, I'm not denying that.
I'm just saying maybe. I'm not saying that it definitely is true, but it could be true.
Could be true that the fact that people don't understand what's going on is why they don't like it.
Yes.
I mean,
the fake war thing is so good, and they do it a lot in the Clone Wars cartoon. Also, I never hear anybody talking about this. The whole war is fake.
Yeah, and I guess I'm trying to figure out, like, I don't know. It just never. I don't know. It felt like they were trying to do this thing where, like, the war is fake, but also it's Star Wars. It's a movie about wars, and don't we all love all the stormtroopers and all the big robots and the spaceships? So we definitely want to care about all that stuff. It's like it's a series of movies about a fake war, but also one that really wants you to. I felt like it felt like it was trying to also play in those broad strokes of the original trilogy of like you're rooting for the good guys against the bad guys. But it's like trying to do that next to trying to be like, who even are the bad guys or something. Like, I don't know.
Right. Oh, so Jordan says that loops back around to being bad again, Keith, because that's bad storytelling. I don't know. People also hate David Lynch movies because they don't understand them. So like I don't think that you can say that something is bad just because the audience didn't understand it. Sometimes audiences don't understand things, and it doesn't even have to be their fault that they didn't understand them. But lots of people did not understand Star Wars because what they did understand instead was red letter media.
Yeah, like, and I'll say, you know, the original Star Wars also has way more political stuff going on in it than I really recognized for years. But that's also because it's all like stuffed into like a scene and a half, and they're all doing their like we're not over explaining stuff because this is episode 4. It's the bit. We're not going to tell you what we're really talking about. You have to have been watching Star Wars your whole life to know what we're saying in this scene or something.
Yeah, I just think, and I have been watching Star Wars for my whole life, and
right.
So
and this is the part I
also think it's to the movie's credit that even if it's true that it sucks to watch once out of when your only context is other Star Wars movies, I do think it's at least interesting that if you are a weirdo who deep dives into Star Wars lore, you can end up getting a lot more out of Star Wars stuff because of how deep that fiction runs, which is not exactly like it's a sign that the universe is good, not that the movie is good, but that is just an interesting.
Yeah, I want to.
Wait. There was one more point, which was that. No, I can't remember it. You can go.
I want to I think bolster. I think Jordan kind of hit upon something I was trying to get out, which is like that you can say you were kind of saying like, oh, maybe the reason that people didn't get this movie is like, oh, they just didn't get it. Like they didn't understand it. But you know, like if you had to watch the movie 10 times and think about it constantly for 20 years straight until you decided it was great, maybe it was more the sitting with it for years part that helped you enjoy it and not just the it's a great movie part.
But aren't some of the greatest works of all time that same way?
Yes.
But
also George Lucas could be a better director.
Maybe they're the best movies ever made.
Maybe the Star Wars prequels are the best movies ever made. And I think we don't even really have to qualify that any more than we already have, because I think we made a strong case. But I think you and I can agree, if there's any movie that was ever going to challenge that world record of best movie ever.
Wait, before I love the
might
transition
be
you're doing.
The King of Kong.
I do remember my last point, which was
okay.
My last point, which was that it is undeniable that in the year of our Lord 2021, that a movie about not a democracy losing to fascism and evil, but a thing that calls itself democracy becoming fascist from the inside is a much more powerful and relevant story now than people I think were capable of seeing in the early 2000s, and even as a sort of post 9/11 critique. And it is now even more relevant.
It wasn't. It came out in 98. It was a pre 9/11.
Well, no, the other ones did though.
Oh, sure. And I'll point out the political stuff I was alluding to in the original Star Wars. I'll just go and say it because it's also not obvious in that one either, is that the political message that was supposed to be there is that the Empire in the original Star Wars is just America. That whole scene where they're like, well, we're not, this is like, it's like basically there's this early scene in Star Wars where, or maybe it's not early, where where like the higher ups of the Empire are talking about their new political strategy, and as an 8-year-old or whatever, it didn't make any sense. It was total nonsense, white noise that washed over me. But basically what they're saying is, we're not actually going to literally rule over the galaxy anymore, because that's too much work. Basically, it's too much work to conquer the galaxy. We're just going to be the biggest, meanest bully in the galaxy, and nobody will want to fuck with us because we're so powerful. And like, you know, that's what the Empire is. That's what America is. It's the country that controls the world, not by literally controlling it, but by just being the biggest bully.
Yeah. And anyway, I would just like to close this on, I think that it is worth rewatching the prequels if you haven't seen them in a long time. I think that that just take with you the ideas that maybe you aren't supposed to like the Jedi. That their decisions are not supposed to be good decisions because they're fundamentally a compromised organization. They're space cops. They're Superman. They're an organization of Superman cops, and that What If Attack of the Clones is not a movie about humanizing Anakin, but it is specifically the one of the three most interested in condemning him. So that's the one I think people miss. I think people have sort of come around on Phantom Menace, but
sorry, what's the one people miss? I was checking on the chat.
Oh, that Attack of the Clones, maybe you should watch it without the idea that it's supposed to be humanizing Anakin, and I think it is in fact the one that is most condemning of him.
Drucifer in the chat recommending Keith listen to A More Civilized Age, which I assume is a Star Wars podcast.
That's Austin. That's Austin and Allie's Star Wars podcast.
Wait,
is about
I see. Wars. I think they were doing a joke.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Drew. But I have declined to listen. Well, I didn't want to listen. I didn't want to watch season 1 because I tried it and didn't like it, and so they're still on season 1, and so I'm not gonna listen to those episodes probably.
I see.
Because I decided that those episodes aren't very good.
Drucifer also says, I don't know, Keith, I saw No Country for Old Men exactly once and was like, this is the best movie I ever saw, and I never want to see it again. I don't know.
That happens to me sometimes too.
Yeah, I don't know. And that's a great movie. Also, maybe do watch it a second time and notice all the problems with the politics in that movie and think to yourself, maybe it's not the best movie ever.
I guess it's the last nail in the coffin for me. And what's the opposite of last nail in the coffin? The last nail to be removed from the coffin that I was sleeping in, called hating the Star Wars prequels. Was
sorry, I was just getting really excited by that metaphor. You're like a vampire who's being released from the coffin of hating the Star Wars prequels.
Yeah, I was dead inside a box called hating the Star Wars prequels, and slowly over 20 years, the nails in that coffin are being removed, and emerges from it me, Keith, the vampire who likes the Star Wars prequels, saying, maybe they aren't even that poorly executed. I even like Jar Jar. Jar Jar's fucking funny. Watch that first movie and try to tell me that Jar Jar isn't fucking funny as hell.
Can I watch the first movie and try to tell you that Jar Jar is not racist? Because that might be harder.
He is racist, but he also is funny as hell. Here's the problem. There's a Gungans problem.
Okay.
There's a racism and Gungans problem, which is that
no way.
The movie, the characters in the movie, and in the Clone Wars TV show, and this is where this idea first came to me, and moviegoers alike underestimate the Gungans to the point it's almost insane. The Gungans are so competent, including Jar Jar. They are so competent, and they get so much shit from everyone all the time in real life and in the movies and in the Clone Wars show.
Well,
like,
but in fairness,
excel at everything that they have ever done in that lore.
In fairness, though, do they so step in poodoo?
Yeah, they do.
I rest my case.
Look, shout out to Ahmed Best. You were done extremely dirty by the world. Way to go! You did a fine job.
Is that the person who played Jar Jar?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did he write a book about that? Or
yeah, it ruined his life.
Yeah, he like almost committed suicide.
Yeah, he did.
Super bummer.
Yeah. So I am now the president of the Rehabilitate Jar Jar Binks Image committee.
Stoydell in the chat
just watch.
Says
part of the humor of Jar Jar is watching and being like, I can't believe that they did this, which is not 100% sincere enjoyment, I guess, but it's
kind of 0% sincere enjoyment.
It's pretty close. I would try. Have you tried not being annoyed by it? Like,
yes,
just try it. Just try not being annoyed.
I mean,
not
like,
that hard.
Here's the thing. You said you're going to skip the first season of Clone Wars, and I haven't seen a minute of this show, so I can't tell you that you're wrong to do that. It's why I've avoided watching it.
I saw the first half, but I felt pretty confident that I didn't like it.
Okay, so the episode, it was like an episode of Waypoint from like a year ago, and Geeta had just watched the first season, but like used a skip list to skip certain episodes, and Austin was already like, oh, I'm looking at this list, you already skipped stuff I think you should watch. And I think Geeta was just like, I just don't want to see Jar Jar. I just can't see Jar Jar. I don't want to hear Jar Jar. And I'm like, he's not that bad. I mean, none of us like Jar Jar, but come on, it's okay.
He's
a Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, he's a muy funny. He's a muy funny also,
and he's a step in voodoo.
He's doing a big laugh.
God, fuck. Oh, man. It's just, yeah, like the Jar Jar stuff is already.
Says, are there Star Wars aliens that aren't racist? A great point is that like there's so much of Star Wars that is racist that to be like. I just don't understand how Jar Jar is the breaking point. I just feel like there's so much in Star Wars that is deeply racist that the Jar Jar thing, I think it's just an excuse for people to shit on a movie that they don't like, because so much else in Star Wars is so much worse than Jar Jar. Like the Trade Federation guys are so much more racist to me than the Jar Jar thing. I don't know.
Sure. Oh yeah, that's racist too. No, listen.
So bad.
I won't deny that people just love to dogpile on Jar Jar. Like, yeah, of course, nothing could be more obvious than the fact that that's true. I will say, like, I do think Jar Jar is a step more racist and more objectionable than most, if not everything else in Star Wars, in terms of racism. And I would say it's especially bad when you see...
There's just a fundamental racist essentialism to Star Wars that is so gross. Yeah. Where, like... Which is a problem of, like, fantasy and sci-fi in general, which is, like every planet is one weather and one kind of person.
Yes.
Forever.
Right. And those are mostly big picture ideas that are kind of in the background of Star Wars, and I agree that you could argue that they're maybe worse than Jar Jar in the fact that they're so pernicious and that it's so easy to not notice what a problem it is, whereas like Jar Jar, it's really obvious how much of a problem it is, but it's really obvious how much of a problem it is. Yeah, well, the rest of the Gungans hate Jar Jar, so... Yeah, I mean, it's especially bad, though, when you see, like, on-set production photos of, like, filming the Phantom Menace, and like the only person of color on the set is the person playing Jar Jar, and they're in like a big rubber frog mask or whatever, and it just, which is a problem really again in Star Wars, extending back to the very beginning of Star Wars. Sure. Which is like another broad issue of
Star Wars being essentially fully empty of anyone but white people. Speaking of a film empty of anything but white people.
Jordan, I will point out, Jordan in the chat saying, because Jar Jar is the song of the South caricature and Gita is black, is probably the thing in that situation if I had to guess. That's a pretty good guess, Jordan. Good point.
I have no idea. I don't know what that character is, so I don't know.
I mean, it sounds
like Jordan knows what he's talking about.
I think mostly Jordan is just rightly pointing out that a black person could definitely take a lot more. It could be harder to watch Jar Jar as a black person than I'm giving it credit for, right? Like, maybe it's really easy for me to just be like, Jar Jar's whatever. But,
yeah.
At least I do have to give, different perspectives.
Sorry, you cut out. You have to.
I should acknowledge, different perspectives.
Speaking of a movie that is absent of anything but white people.
The King of Kong?
The King of Kong, yeah.
Oh, Keith, there's gotta be a person of color in there somewhere. Let me think.
Ooh. I'm not so sure.
Ooh. Oh, there's gotta be one. Ooh, let me think.
It is possible that maybe barring the like a background character in Steve Wiebe's school, I don't think that there was a single black person in the whole thing.
No, yeah, you're right.
Like, not even in a frame, I can think of. But we watched The King of Kong, and that's what today is about.
We watched The King of... You probably noticed this is the King of Kong episode.
Yeah, surely by now you must have picked up on that this is the King of Kong episode. You came to me very recently and said we should rewatch The King of Kong and talk about it.
Yeah.
And I said, rewatch? I've never seen that.
And I was like, damn it. You ruined my whole thing. My thing, I specifically wanted to do a thing about rewatching it, and that's completely ruined if you haven't seen it the first time.
Right. I knew the story from you. You told me the story of The King of Kong. I have seen it for the first time. It's very fresh. I watched it this morning.
I watched it last night.
It is the story of a man named Steve Wiebe.
Billy Mitchell.
I disagree.
Okay.
I think it's the story. I think you could say it's the story of both of them.
Yes.
But for me, it is the story of Steve Wiebe.
I know.
Who is a down on his luck. He's the anti-Billy Mitchell.
Right.
He is the guy. Billy Mitchell, the guy who for some reason everything is always going right for. Steve Wiebe is the guy for some reason everything is going wrong for no reason. I'm just
in awe of like. It's like a slanted documentary. They're definitely, their whole angle is Steve Wiebe is the good guy and Billy Mitchell is the bad guy.
Loves Steve Wiebe.
Oh, this movie loves Steve Wiebe and hates Billy Mitchell. But at the end of the day, when you're making a documentary, you can really only work with what your subjects give you. And the people in this documentary gave so much.
They gave a lot.
These are... These it's like basically all people like in their 40s, because it's like 2005 and it's all about classic arcade games, like people who've been playing arcade games since the late 70s and early 80s, and it's all about diving into their weird insular world of classic arcade high score competition. And Billy Mitchell is the golden child who's been
high scoring since the 80s.
Who's been a face of classic arcade gaming. This
you'd say the face, maybe.
The face, yeah. Though, I hadn't heard of him before King of Kong.
No, which I think speaks to the insularity of this community.
It's interesting because this movie comes out in 2005 or 6 or 7, I don't know. Or 8, maybe. I keep forgetting
it was
when
6
this thing came out.
Or 7.
Yeah, so it's actually at this moment where this is right before, in my mind, games explode for real, and Call of Duty happens or whatever. And it's still it was this weird moment where Pac-Man Pac-Man and Donkey Kong and Galaga were like still kind of the biggest names in video games just because of the sheer number of people that had been alive long enough to experience them. And so there was like Billy Mitchell was still making headlines by playing Pac-Man up until like 2006. It was very weird.
Yeah, not important headlines, but
no,
yes.
Not important headlines, just, you know, fluff video game related headlines. He was the first person to ever play a perfect game of Pac-Man. Nobody will ever be able to get a higher score in Pac-Man than Billy Mitchell because he got the highest possible one.
Other people have also gotten the highest possible score, but he was the first one to do so.
Right, at least publicly. As he always has.
So this is a story fundamentally, I think, about an outside small town guy who gets it in his head that he wants a video game score, and his experience trying to break into this extremely insular cult of personality that surrounds Billy Mitchell, the face of video game high scores for decades.
Yeah, you couldn't ask for a better setup. He set a world record for Donkey Kong publicly in the 80s, and it stood untested for over 20 years. And
the people who were second weren't even close.
Yeah, and it's so funny is they tell the story about how Billy Mitchell met his best friend, which was like they basically had a Time magazine video game high score thing where it's like everyone submits their highest scores and they do a photo shoot like, here are the world's greatest video game players and the 10 video games that you care about. And like Billy Mitchell he was the high score for Centipede, but he didn't get to have his face on the high score for Donkey Kong, even though he also was the highest record holder of Donkey Kong because what's his fucking face? I forgot his
lawyer
name.
Guy.
The lawyer guy lies about a score, submits a fake score. Billy challenges him to a Donkey Kong off publicly to prove that the score is fake, and Billy trounces him and, you know, not only totally embarrasses him score-wise, but sets the high score that stands for 2 decades. They become best friends. So Billy Mitchell's whole personality is tied up.
By the way, this is the part where he, to the camera, says, basically says like the worst thing that you can do is lie about a video game score.
Yeah. Oh God, like when Billy, like the very first line of the documentary is something like, you know, when you want a world record, when you want to put your name in the history books, in the record books, you gotta pay the price.
Yes. Yep. He says that, and then he comes back. The next thing that he says is, you know, the best, you know, French pilot in
yes!
World War I. You don't know who it is. The best American pilot. You don't know who it is. They got 22 and 24. Kills in dogfights. But everyone knows the Red Baron, who has like 80 something, like the number one from Germany. Like it was like some people basically it's like almost verbatim. It was like some people are just better.
There's a level.
People.
I watched this movie. This is fucked up. I watched it the first time recently, and that was when I was like, we should rewatch this movie. Then I rewatched it
for the first time recently.
Then I watched it for a second time for fun, and then I watched it the third time last night. You know, because we were going to be talking about it.
Oh, okay.
And so I could basically recite this verbatim for you if I wanted to, but he ends it with saying like, yeah, like there's a level of difference between people, and it comes out in some video games. And what's so funny, it's like he's so eloquent and charming. Like every time he gives this little speech, I
totally disagree.
I'm in the palm of his hand. Like it's
really?
like he's just good at speaking. Like some of the things he says.
1 minute into this movie, I say Billy is immediately the villain.
Oh, sure.
I wrote wants his name in history, Red Baron, some people better than others, and then cult of personality. That was within 4 minutes of the movie starting.
Oh yeah,
everything he said
from him.
made my skin crawl.
Totally, yeah. He absolutely should make your skin crawl. But like when he turns it on in the right way, it's like it really works. Like you can see why he is so influential to people. And even towards the end of the movie, Walter Day, the referee guy, head of Twin Galaxies, the record keeping organization, jokes about how Billy jokes about his ability to influence people as being his Obi-Wan Kenobi powers. That he can just sweet talk people into doing whatever.
Yeah. Who is that old woman who wanted to hold a Q*bert record?
Doris Self.
Okay, they do one to camera interview with her, and she basically just says like, oh, Billy, he's devious, ha 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 ha. Like, he literally calls him devious.
Well, but you see him interact with her, and he's so nice. Like, I
Sure.
feel like the movie totally gives you enough material on Billy Mitchell to understand how you could know him personally and just get the impression like, oh, he's just such a great guy. Like, he's just so sweet and friendly and nice. But then, like, when you see it all kind of deconstructed in front of you, you're like, this guy's kind of a sociopath.
Yeah. And one of the things that the movie does really well in wanting to show this and portray him as the villain is watching the people around him
gush over
him. Come to understand that more.
Oh,
this
sure,
great, I'm
yeah.
skipping right to the end, and his like lawyer friend is being interviewed. They're being interviewed together at a restaurant, and they're being interviewed about Steve Wiebe, and he goes, look, I met Steve, I saw him play, he's a great guy, he's a great player, he's honest, I like him, like, and I think that his scores stand.
Yeah.
And they cut to Billy. This is like the last 5 minutes of the movie. After the whole thing happens, they cut to Billy, or they pan to Billy because they're next to each other.
Right.
And they're like, and what about you? And he's like, oh, I really don't know enough about the situation to say.
It's like no one on earth knows more about Steve Wiebe's situation.
And he's just like, you can see him hating that Billy said that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
you can just
embarrassed and wanting to say something.
Yeah, like you can see him be like, I can't believe my best friend or whatever just said this absolute bullshit like to a movie camera.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
So they introduce Billy, then they introduce Steve. I wrote here he's the anti-Billy. They introduce him right after. So Billy is like, I can't stop winning. Everything's going so good. Like, I'm just winning. Like, and I just feel like there's some guy out there who's just getting the screws to him.
Yeah,
and then it cuts to Steve Wiebe.
Right. This is what I mean when I say like hard cuts to Redmond, Washington, where Steve lives. And you know, it's so clear how narratively crafted it is as a documentary, but you couldn't ask for your documentary villain to give you a better setup line.
I know.
Like, he literally says,
it's his like charisma and ability to speak working against him.
Yeah, it's like
the thing that his weakness, even at his top, it seems to be, or you know, at least what this documentary has showed, was like even when he's not in like a situation that he has to work himself out of, he still can't help talk himself up a little bit too much.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you get all the best stuff, is him feeling like he's got to defend himself even when he doesn't. Redmond, Washington.
I mean, we don't have to like step through the movie beat by beat, but like, yeah, it goes into, and of course, Steve Wiebe, you want to sympathize with him because not only is he the opposite of Billy in terms of his success, because like he's still like, ultimately Steve Wiebe is like,
he's got a house. He had recently graduated with a master's from college.
Right. So
he started a new teaching job. He has a wife and kids that seem to really like him. He seems like a nice guy, a nice, timid guy who's had a lot of disappointment in his life.
That's the best they could do. He doesn't really have like a tragic life. It's just like, he's a really smart, talented person where things haven't come together correctly
they
for
have
him.
His brother say, like, I don't think I've ever seen anybody cry as much as I've seen Steve cry.
Yeah, it's his best friend, which is
it's his best friend. I wasn't sure if it was his best friend or his brother.
I always imagine Steve Wiebe being like, why the fuck do you have to say that? Why'd you have to talk about me crying so much in the movie, you asshole?
Well, he wanted to be a musician, and it didn't really work.
Right?
He was
so
too
it's like
shy, and he wanted to be a pitcher, but he choked under the pressure.
Well, he hurt himself.
He wanted to get a job at his dad's work at Boeing, but he got laid off or something.
They got laid off the day they signed the papers on their house. So he bought a Boeing engineer house. And then has to pay for it as a high school science teacher or whatever, middle school.
Yeah. Well, they don't say what his wife does though. So
true.
Fine. But.
Yeah. So but also he was like a star pitcher, but he got injured. It seemed kind of like the type of injury where it was just like, oh, well, he never had the kind of body that was going to stand up to being a professional athlete.
Wait, did he get injured? I didn't catch that.
Yeah, he got injured. Just that he couldn't pitch anymore, basically. I wasn't sure if it was. They didn't really make it clear. Was it an injury that put him out of pitching, or was it just that it seemed like, yeah, you're good at pitching, but your body can't take pitching, like that kind of thing?
So maybe we processed this information differently. The way that I understood it was he had a big game and was not able to perform because he was choking under the pressure of it.
Oh, I don't know. But also his dad goes, I pitched him too much. I was the manager. So okay, but also he's the guy who was the star player because his dad was the team manager. Then he was going to go work for his dad's company, and that didn't pan out. He is, it's like whatever. He's not the most tragic story ever. It's just oh, bummer, I didn't get to work at Boeing or whatever. But they just tell the story. They tell the story in such a way that you're totally on his side.
Immediately. He just seems like a nice guy. That's really what it is. Steve Wiebe's a nice guy.
He's just a nice guy
who is so put down. He can't even get people to say his name right. This whole movie.
Right. Oh god,
this is a documentary about a sad, shy guy trying to get recognized for his actual talent and not even being able to get these people to say his name right. They keep calling him Steve Wiebe. At the very end of the movie, there's this great scene where he goes, "Could you say it again? It's Wiebe."
Yeah.
That was about to call him up.
Well, that was the lawyer. That was Billy Mitchell's friend being like, "Hey, come on, say his name." Right. Yeah.
It's so sad.
But it was a great moment.
Steve. Oh my god.
Right. It's a great moment though because it's finally. What
Billy's friend is now Steve's friend.
What allows Steve to enter into to be accepted into this world is that the people in that world meet him and must admit that he's just a great guy and just decide that they like him, except for Billy Mitchell, who doesn't want anything to do with him, basically because he's butthurt that he stole his Donkey Kong score or whatever. But I wanted to say earlier, we were talking about that story about how his lawyer friend originally lied about his Donkey Kong score and then he embarrassed him and simultaneously set the world record or whatever. It's so brilliant how Billy Mitchell's a whole part of Billy Mitchell's personality is tied up in the idea that the concept of that someone came to him and lied about a Donkey Kong score and he made them admit that they were lying and it made them better friends and brought them to the truth. And the whole time it's Billy Mitchell just kind of assumes this is the same thing that's going to happen with Steve Wiebe. It's a fake score. He's lying. He's going to humble Steve by making him admit that he, did wrong or whatever. And that's not really how it goes.
No. So I do want to say, just looking at my notes, we've kind of moved past this, but just another little bit of just Billy giving you the best stuff to make him look like an ass totally by accident. He goes into a supermarket and they film him facing his hot sauce product that he owns and moving other hot sauces to the back and pulling his hot sauce out and putting them in front of competing hot sauces.
Oh, I didn't realize that's what was. I guess I never caught that.
Yeah, he was putting competing hot sauces in the back of a shelf and bringing his and putting them in front. Totally deranged. Just a random supermarket. It's a random supermarket.
Okay,
who cares?
I'll have to check. It looked to me like he was just fixing his own products display, but I guess I
saw him put other ones in the back.
Gotcha. Sure.
And and I can't. I think that there was something that he said that that lined up good with that too. That they edited in, but
And meanwhile,
just totally weird shit.
We should say, meanwhile, all of these events in the documentary we're describing, it's all shot through with these interview cutaways of just like the biggest fucking nerd dinguses you can imagine talking very seriously about arcade video games.
And effusively about Billy.
If you do not know the next pattern coming up in a Tron light cycle event, you will lose your life. That's my favorite line in the movie.
Yeah,
I cannot stop saying it.
You
see this stack of 8 tapes over here. This is from Keith Carberry's 48-hour Nibbler performance. I have to watch all of these.
Oh, but did I pick up that this guy who's watching hundreds of hours of game tape is not paid?
I think it's all volunteer. I don't know that like anyone is paid anything
except Billy.
No, Billy also doesn't. He said that he doesn't take a paycheck from Twin Galaxies either.
No, but he gets paid. I don't know what he gets paid from, but one of the last things is like, hey, if anyone can beat my score that I sent in on this shitty tape, then I'll give them 10 grand. And then Walter Day, the head of Twin Galaxies, was like, and we know he's good for it.
Right.
So he's making money somewhere.
Well, it's his sauce empire.
It's his sauce empire.
He shows you the warehouse and he says it's like amazing here, except everything you see is actually sauce.
so they're being sycophantic. My favorite sycophant is the guy who like considers himself the protege
Brian
Donkey Kong thing, and he wanted to be the first guy to see a kill screen.
Yes.
Donkey Kong, you play old arcade games, you get to the last level and the game just breaks because there's not enough RAM to keep going, and they figure that no reasonable person would ever get there. So the game just ends. Donkey Kong famously lets you play a couple seconds of the kill screen, or at least famous to these people. And so this total fucking ass kisser who like considers himself Billy's protege, but also his only real competition, who also isn't really even close. Like, there's no way this guy's ever going to beat that score. He is like walking around, like spying on all the stuff that Steve is doing and reporting it back to Billy, who like literally will not show his face at any competition that Steve Wiebe's at. You know what I'm talking about? I think maybe your headphones or your mic, something's going on, because I can see.
I was going to the bathroom.
Okay,
but you're right. No, that guy's totally incredible. We were just Cheryl and I were Googling him last night because we were like, we gotta know more about this guy, because he said his name is Brian Kuh, Kuh is how you spell his last name. He says he retired at 30. And moved from New York City to New Hampshire, just outside Fun Spot, which is like the most well-known place in America to play classic games. So he basically he moved from the capital of the world, New York, down to the capital of video games, Fun Spot, New Hampshire. And he says that he plays games there every day to practice. Even his fucking line is so brilliant. He goes, "Oh, for years people thought Billy Mitchell's score was unbeatable. Some of us have played every day, a week, month, year since then, and we still haven't even come close." I'm like, oh, who are you talking about, Brian?
Yeah.
And so
okay, so the quick like catch up on the plot, just so that we can forget about the plot and just talk about the details. Steve films himself beating the high score, gets over 1 million, I think it was close to 200,000 points more than Billy's score, which was like 800,000.
Not over 1 million, but yeah, his
first tape was over 1 million. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it was.
He's sorry. I hold the machinations of King of Kong within my gray meat. But the thing is, like, he says that he's broken 1 million before, but not recorded. and like his videotape was like 870,000 or something. And then
I'm almost positive that they show what's his name? They showed the one where his kid is like behind him, like being like, you gotta wipe my ass, Dad. You know?
That one is just he beats Billy Mitchell's score that has stood for 20 years by like, a few they cut to the scorekeeper, right? They cut to the scorekeeper, the biggest nerd in the thing, if you ask me, and they show him watching it. Robert like being excited about it, and I got it right here. Yeah, it was 1,006,600. His first tape. What?
You can see that
Jordan Mallory yelling, "Check the tape." I mean, yeah, I guess Anyways, what's up?
I checked the tape. It's over 1 million. It's 1,006,600.
Really?
Yep.
Huh. Okay.
So he breaks 1 million. Gotcha. He's like 150,000 over, which is a significant score.
The score only has 6 digits. So when you score 1 million, it goes back to 0. That's how high the score is.
Yeah. So he breaks 1 million. He sends it in to the tape. They watch it. Everyone's impressed. Basically, 2 goons show up to his fucking house unannounced.
Yeah.
And without anyone's permission, actually with explicitly denied permission.
It was they like edit it. It seems like they do some like, I'm not going to deny there's some funky editing in the movie where like it seems like they intentionally leave out details to make things sound worse. It sounded like what it was is they asked his wife if they could come in. She said, no, you have to wait. Then she left, and instead they went and knocked on the door and talked to her mother and was like, oh, can we come in though? And there she was like, I guess, I don't know. And she's like, they should have left my mother alone. She said to the camera, like, Steve's not here, only my mother is here. You guys have to wait until he comes home. And so she leaves, and then they just go and ask the grandma anyway, which is the same thing. I mean, they were denied permission to enter this woman's house, and ignored it to ask the grandma instead of waiting for Steve like they were instructed. And so they start taking apart his machine. Oh, they introduce this thread that I don't really understand or even care about, where there's some other video game weirdo who's invested for other reasons and wanting Billy Mitchell to fail. There's so much to it. But I love that line from the guy you say is the biggest nerd of the whole thing. You're talking about Robert Rucksack. He's the guy with the big glasses. And his fucking line where he's like, you went there with, I don't remember the guy's actual name. They went there with Brian De Palma, one of the most respected gamers, to back him up. Oh,
I can't hear what you're saying, and the Donkey Kong noises are bugging me. Can you mute it?
Oh, no.
Are you streaming Donkey Kong now, or are you just
I just turned it on. Here's Donkey Kong. We're playing it. I can put on audio settings. Well, I'll just turn it down.
It's doing that. It's doing that because the noise is constant. It's doing the thing where voice meter ducks your voice to give me the game. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, the sound in the original Donkey Kong is pretty borked because it's mostly just footsteps. But specifically this version, it seems like an extra problem where the footsteps are like louder than everything for some reason. Anyways, I just love that line. They talk about them going to this house to inspect this Donkey Kong board for authenticity, and Robert Rucksack has some line where they're like, they went with Keith Carberry, one of the most respected gamers, to back him up. Just like, oh my god, like fucking, come on, guys.
So they inspect. They decide that this tape is not valid because it was related somehow to this guy who doesn't like Billy, but then Billy is on the committee that decides that this score doesn't count. Which sounds to me like a
so
that one side of them, Steve's side was like, they took pictures. They couldn't see anything wrong with the board. It's just my board. It's fine. And I trust Steve. I don't know that I trust that other weird guy who had the video.
Well, but it's his board. That's the thing.
Right, it's that guy's board, but it didn't seem like there was anything wrong.
No.
I don't know. I probably think that it's fine.
I have extra info on this that basically proves this. Is like, so in the years since this documentary has come out, Billy Mitchell has been exposed for cheating. In cheating after the documentary was made. We can probably guess he was maybe cheating before that also. But in hearing a lot of
that tape that he sends in, and that last little bit where Billy sends in a tape to like beat Steve's score while Steve is there and Billy is still refusing to show his face. There is no way that was not a cheated tape. Zero chance.
Sure.
And then watching Walter Day and the other Twin Galaxies people rush to add that score up as the top score was so embarrassing, especially considering what happens in real life after the movie comes out.
Here's the thing: Robert Rucksack, the big glasses nerd guy who wants you to know that if you don't know the next pattern coming up in a Tron Life Cycle event, that you will lose your life. At his end title card says that he resigned as a referee after that tournament. It doesn't say why.
Wow.
But
there's no way it's not that.
I mean, he's also the guy who was like, I will defend the integrity of this organization with my dying breath.
Seems like actually he will quit. He'll just quit instead of defending the integrity.
Well, I think he found out that that's the only course of defense he had.
Yeah.
But
although it's not like Twin Galaxies has not been in its own battle with Billy Mitchell since his movie came out,
right? It has.
But quick, getting back to the bare bones.
Oh no, sorry, wait. The whole reason I took that detour was to say that there were other like classic arcade game nuts who were like defending Billy Mitchell in the light of him cheating, and what he was caught cheating was simply by submitting videotapes that were recorded in MAME rather than on original hardware, which is against the rules.
Right.
Whether or not that should actually be a rule is debatable. I think MAME is fine, whatever. But
there's no
they had these classic arcade nutsos being like, there's no way that you could ever fake a Donkey Kong board. It's totally impossible to have a fake or whatever. Like, these people don't even know what the fuck MAME is. So like, in light of that kind of nonsense, realizing these goobers who are like checking his board and being like, the right substance in the right location on any one of these chip pins could totally alter the functionality of this board. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Okay, I do know what they were saying there. They said goop, which is a thing that people do to circuit boards to hide that something has been altered sometimes. There's like this black goop that you can put on it. People do it for guitar pedals if they don't want you to know the circuit so that it can't be cloned by like by like board cloners. And I won't get into that. But so what they were saying was that there was goop on the board that could have been just a repair, but it also could have been someone changing something in that spot on the board. But they never say what that spot was and why it would have been important anyway.
Yeah.
So
this gets back to my thing of saying like I feel like maybe they just had a lot to tell in one movie, but it did seem like, having watched it multiple times, they are kind of editing around what people are saying about this board. Like they say that they denied it based on the board, but they never say why, other than that it's associated with this guy Roy Schilt, aka Mr. Awesome.
Mr. Awesome will show you how to get girls somehow.
And
these nerds, by the way, doesn't matter. It's not important to the thing. These nerds are weird about girls.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, go figure. Jesus. Yeah. And like,
you don't see DDGs playing these games,
dude. Which is drop dead gorgeous if you didn't know.
That's drop dead gorgeous if you don't know.
I wasn't keeping count of how many DDG men were playing these arcade games in the movie, but
it's close to zero.
It's close to zero.
I won't say zero, but it's close.
Listen, when Billy Mitchell is like the pretty boy,
you know what? That lawyer and Steve Wiebe are the only two normal looking people in this whole documentary.
Oh, that's funny.
Everyone else is a weirdo.
My thing I've always been saying is that Steve Wiebe's best friend, who's like often smoking in the movie and complaining about Billy Mitchell, is the only one in the movie who fucks. Except for Walter.
Steve Wiebe has kids. He fucks.
Well, yeah, except Steve Wiebe has kids, and obviously Walter Day has like a leather sex dungeon.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
But other than that, yeah.
So after his tape gets invalidated, to me it seemed like total horseshit that they are covering their ass for their friend Walter Day, or no, sorry, not Walter Day, Billy Mitchell, who Walter Day is very ready to admit that Billy's success is basically a 1-for-1 good thing for Twin Galaxies,
right? Because
he's the face of video games, he brings them attention and money.
And I will say about the Roy Schilt thing, giving him the board, that guy, we kind of skipped over it. That guy is like a weird sexist douchebag who, if there's anything you could clearly condemn Steve Wiebe for in the movie, it's having any affiliation with him. Like, they're kind of not wrong. He does seem like a terrible person, but they do just use it as an excuse to invalidate his clearly authentic score.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that guy. He did not seem great, but that score didn't seem fake. So, I mean, he filmed it.
Yeah.
And then obviously the point being that they clearly don't have a problem with taped scores. They just had a problem with his taped score, because after Steve spends a full year flying back and forth to the East Coast to various events to authenticate his scores in person and earning new high scores in person, they embarrassingly rush to validate Billy Mitchell's obviously horseshit tape score at the event that he is like in the middle of refusing to go to, that his like lawyer friend is like, Billy, like, where are you? Why? You got to show up. There's no reason you should show up. And Walter Day is there also being like, look, he says he's got reasons why he can't show up. They're all bullshit. He's got 15 reasons why he has to be here.
Yeah.
And he never shows up. There's one shot finally in the last like 12 minutes of the movie where Billy Mitchell and Steve Wiebe are in the frame at the same time, because Billy has spent the entire movie avoiding Steve. So Steve is at the thing. It's perfect. Steve is at the thing playing Donkey Kong, and there's a shot past him where you see Billy Mitchell walk into frame over his shoulder.
Donkey Kong!
They tell him, hey, Steve is there. Or sorry, Billy came. He looks over his shoulder. He sees him. Billy walks over past him. Steve goes, "Oh, hi, Billy." And Billy ignores him, looks over to his wife and say, "There's some people here you don't really want to spend a lot of time around."
Yeah, there's some people I don't want to spend too much time with, and then walks away. We do not get to see a reaction from Steve, though.
No, I wish that we did.
There are still some moments in this movie, again, where I'm like, did it really happen that way? Was there not anything else that... I don't know.
That seems like a thing that Billy would do.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing, is like, you don't need to try any harder to make Billy Mitchell look like a fucking nut. So I guess, why would they even bother?
Oh yeah, I think I mentioned this, but like watching his sycophants like spying on Steve and reporting back like via phone, especially what was his name? Brian Koo.
Everyone's watching this. Everyone's watching your tape. Every eye in the room is on this moment. Nobody's gonna miss this for the world. Yeah, I don't think there's anything that could distract anybody from the thing that we're watching right now.
He's saying it out loud in the room while they're all trying to watch. It's like, you're the one distracting.
Hard cut to him standing next to a group of people silently watching a tape. Oh, so I Googled this person, Brian Koo, to be like, how did he retire? What did he retire from? And he was a New York City bank comptroller, which the best I could do was just Google like NYC bank comptroller salary. And I don't even, nobody on the planet knows or remembers what a comptroller is, even though I learned like a month ago. But it's like between 90 and 110,000 a year. So it's like, it's money, but not that you could retire at 30 on. But
he probably lives on capital gains.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
You know, because in Googling him, like, he doesn't have a Wikipedia page. He had like 40 followers on Twitter. So he's like verifiably not internet famous. But
right.
I found what seemed to be a classic game forum, like for people that go to FunSpot, basically. And it was like people talking about him like he was a celebrity. Like, apparently he's been working at FunSpot and other arcades as an attendant and racking up ridiculous hours doing it. But he's he worked 111 hours as an arcade attendant in a week, and Walter Day's like, that's the most hours anyone's ever worked at an arcade. And he's auctioning off his paycheck like to some other arcade goer who would think it's worth having, but like auctioning off the money of the check too, because it's like, oh, he doesn't need it, you know, he's just working for the love of it, so he's giving away his paycheck. So it's like,
I mean, these people they're trapped in a dead hobby.
It's if it's in your heart, it's not dead.
But they're pretending like it's a big
Kong
deal.
Kill screen
is the
coming
problem. I mean, I guess it's not a problem, but like they are not coming to terms with that their hobby isn't a big deal, and it has missed any opportunity that it will ever become a big deal.
Well, I mean, like, I don't really know that. I didn't get the vibe from them that they needed or wanted it to be more popular than it was. They frankly just seemed kind of happy with their thing.
I don't know.
Insofar as they seem happy,
like delusional. You know, this is an like that they were trying to make it a thing. I mean, they did that like Guinness deal during the documentary.
Very weird.
Yeah. So they're clearly like trying to expand the thing, or they were, 15 years ago as a business.
Ooh. So I guess it's funny. I guess the thing I was trying to hit upon earlier when I was talking about what a weird time in games it was for like the profile of classic arcade games. I guess what I was thinking about was like, it's interesting because they talk about it like it's esports, but this was before there was really any esport that people cared about besides like Counter-Strike and Quake, but even those were kind of like in a lull during that period. Yeah, so it was like discovering, there's this pocket of people that extremely care about arcade esports, but I don't know. Like, it's just funny because, like, you know, they will just call classic arcade games video games. Like, that's just what video games are to them. Like, video games are
other
the
video
stand-up
games are
arcade
called modern
machines.
video games.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, nobody says, I don't think anyone says the word retro in the documentary. You know, like, that's not in their lexicon.
Right, because they're not retro games, they're real games.
They're not retro games, they're video games.
Yeah. It's the other kinds of games where
cards,
you need to
checkers.
say that
show me even a
thing.
nun or a hermit who hasn't done cards or checkers.
Everyone games.
It's in there. I'm slowly being poisoned.
So what was it about this movie that drew you to wanting to rewatch and talk about it?
Well, I mean, just I think it sounds like you might agree with me. It's just a really entertaining and fun and funny documentary to watch.
Yeah.
And I think it was specifically the fact that I always knew I first watched it when I was in high school. So maybe this is just probably, I guess, long story short, is probably me just not giving my high school self enough credit. But I think I kind of like expected to go back and see like, oh, sure, Billy Mitchell's a jerk, but like what a highly scripted hatchet job this, you know, pseudo documentary is or whatever about, you know, I kind of expected it to be basically a nothing story that some documentarians had to gussy up to make it seem important. But no, like these people are total characters. It's so bonkers from beginning to end. It's like
Walter Day doing his like folk music about Billy Mitchell. He has folk songs about Billy.
Fuck. Oh, that was somebody else. But funny. Yeah, there's a folk song about Billy Mitchell's perfect Pac-Man game.
Walter does do folk music, though.
Oh yeah, he's got his own originals. Well, because Keith, Walter Day doesn't write. He's not going to write a song about some stupid arcade game. He's writing real art. This is real music he's performing here about lies.
It was not that good.
No, it was not.
I'm glad that he's having fun.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's
God, watching them all be so nervous. Like there was such a nervous energy when Steve was about to in person break Billy's record. Like they were bummed. They were like weirded out and bummed about it. Like just like the nerve. I just don't understand. Like what is it that makes you not want to see that new world record get broken? They didn't want to see it. They wanted Billy's to remain Billy's.
Yeah, I do just think it comes down to that like idolization thing. I think it's like, hey, Billy Mitchell's Donkey Kong score has stood for decades, so if someone beats it, yeah, maybe this is the part I missed that you picked up on, is like maybe there is this little bit of like I need to stop climbing this ladder. That their little insular world is going to crumble if outsiders can come in and just, if anyone can just walk in and beat Billy Mitchell's record, then I don't know.
Yeah,
something.
And Steve eventually did get sort of an apology from the Twin Galaxies. I think that they realized after that last thing, after the Guinness event, they held an event to like have people come and try to get new records at games so that they could submit them to Guinness, who said, you guys are going to be our official video game people, which is stupid because they only know about video games that were made in the 80s.
Yeah, there is literally just one sentence of an interview with somebody from Guinness who's like, oh yeah, for us, someone like Walter who knows everything there is to know about computer games is a godsend for us. It's like, you're just left wondering, like, is this almost like a fraudulent relationship? Because they don't seem to know jack shit about video games.
Yeah, they seem to know about 15 video games.
Yeah, they know about Galaga and Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man and Defender and Donkey Kong.
Joust and Cubert.
Oh, I did find like, but even though like Walter Day still seems like, again, like if you just knew him, you'd be like, oh, nice guy. He has that funny line at the beginning where he's like, I wanted the fame, I wanted the attention, I wanted the pretty girls saying, hi, I see you're good at Centipede. Which is a very good line.
It was honestly the most normal line about girls in the whole thing.
Right.
So at that event, after Billy behaving extremely poorly and making himself look like a total ass, even in a way that his friends notice, they don't announce that they're revalidating his original over 1 million score. Steve is not able to break a score at that last thing. I don't know if it was the pressure or just a bad day or what, but he couldn't do it. But they call him up and they're like, "You're a great Donkey Kong player. You're one of the best, and you can send us tapes whenever you want." And then they sent him a letter that said, "Sorry that we didn't treat you good.
Yes, sorry we fucked up.
Sorry we fucked up.
Maybe once there was a movie being filmed about it, they thought maybe they should be nicer."
Yeah. Oh, they didn't think that during the movie somehow, but they only thought after. So for a while, he did have the top score, or he doesn't anymore. It's now pretty high. It's like 1.2 million.
Yeah, I think basically what happened was, I think the King of Kong, the movie, kicked off people's interest in breaking the Donkey Kong record, and now like 10 people have beaten both records since then.
Actually, it is right now. It's only 1, 2, 3. 4 people have beaten Steve's record. Just 4.
Oh, just 4. Okay.
Just
is it
4.
the same record, or did he set a new record?
I looked, and I think that he does have a higher record. Let me look and see what his highest score is. Let's see.
I mean,
think that he. Let's see. Okay.
The King of Kong is also fully responsible for me liking Donkey Kong the arcade game, because I didn't care about it or even like it at all before that.
Yeah, I think it's a bad game. Yeah, I don't think it's a fun game to play.
No,
you're agreeing?
I died.
Okay, so God, it wasn't until 2018 where Weeb was officially recognized as the first person to reach a score of 1 million points. The title was granted by Twin Galaxies after it performed an investigation into Mitchell, the previous record holder. Mitchell was found to either have used hardware emulation such as MAME or to have otherwise modified his evidence. He was subsequently stripped of all records submitted to Twin Galaxies. All records submitted to Twin Galaxies. Yeah. MAME is acceptable for use by Twin Galaxies, but requires a different set of guidelines and submission processes as it is listed on a different leaderboard. Mitchell claimed a high score submission for original Donkey Kong arcade hardware, but nothing modified. Nothing but a non-modified Donkey Kong arcade cabinet can be used. I don't know why it doesn't say anywhere here about his obviously faked video, which they noted the thing. People in the thing were like, there was something wrong with that tape, and it just never got brought up.
Well, whatever. I think really, I don't think there's anything wrong with the tape, actually. I think it looks like you could make that case. Basically, at the moment that Billy Mitchell's score rolls over to 1 million, the side of the screen with the score on it gets fuzzy.
It gets really fuzzy.
So... But they do say, like, you know, they quickly followed up with, like, well, it's a copy, it's not the master copy. You know, VHS tapes, copies of VHS tapes notoriously get extra weird garbage on the screen.
But at that moment, and then to not ever show footage of the original tape then?
Oh, I don't know if they definitely ratified the score before they saw the original tape, because that's in the documentary. I don't know if they then saw the original later. I don't know if this MAME one is that. I assume this one he got caught using MAME for when he wasn't supposed to is...
Could have been this one, yeah.
I believe it's a different one, but I feel like I heard so much about that story that it would have been mentioned if it's the one from the movie, so it must be a different one.
Weeb's official high score now. Sorry, Wiebe.
Keith, it's Wiebe.
It's Wiebe.
God, you're as bad as Walter Day.
Weeby's official high score is 1.106 million, which is right now the 10th highest on the Twin Galaxies website. Only 4 people have broken Weeby's record. No, only 10 people. Yeah, only 10 people broke Weeby's record, like to hold the record at some point. But I guess there's 9 other people who have a higher score flat out.
Okay.
But so this leads us to that. I don't know when they decided to do this, but Twin Galaxies was like, your scores are done, and then Billy Mitchell like sued Twin Galaxies.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I mean,
which is normal behavior to me.
It's extremely normal. Yeah, Billy Mitchell had more records than Donkey Kong.
He did.
So yeah,
he had Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, Donkey Kong Jr., and Missile Command were his 5 records, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, no one can ever take away the Pac-Man one, so he's got that one. Come on, Bill. You got Pac-Man.
You always have Pac-Man. Oh, maybe Pac-Man wasn't one of the 5 that they mentioned because it does have a finite score.
And it was done in public. Oh yeah, all the great stuff. You know, when it's time for me to prove myself and put up another score, I'm gonna do it in a public forum, as I always have.
So funny. And then he spends the entire thing not showing his face.
And then as soon as Steve Wiebe shows up in person, he sends a videotape.
So this was the funny thing that I saw. There's 2 So, Twin Galaxies alleges, quote, decades-long pattern of abuse, impropriety, nepotism, and fraud. This is what Twin Galaxies says of Billy Mitchell. Twin Galaxies is going on the offensive in its long-running legal and public relations battle with Billy Mitchell. In a cross-compliant filed last month, the video game score tracking organization accuses Billy Mitchell and Twin Galaxies founder Walter Day.
Oh no!
So Walter Day is part of this.
Oh,
of a decades-long
leave
pattern
Walter
of abuse,
alone.
Yeah. Nepotism and fraud intended to falsely manufacture a persona for Billy Mitchell as the greatest video games player of all time. We've seen Billy Mitchell, by the way. You remember this, right? With our own eyes, have seen him at PAX twice.
What do you mean?
Wearing his stupid America flag.
We did?
Tie. Yes, he was dressed up. He had like an American flag shirt and an American flag tie. We saw him at PAX in like 2012 and like 2013.
What?
Yeah, we have seen him.
Did I?
You said that's Billy Mitchell, and I was like, who?
That's funny. Okay.
Okay. Quote. They knew that these score performances were fake. In the past, Twin Galaxies' defense against defamation has narrowly focused on what it says was a good faith analysis of tapes. Mitchell submitted for 3 alleged Donkey Kong high scores, which Twin Galaxies no longer recognizes as legitimate. In the past, the organization was careful not to speak to Mitchell's potential motives or any actions that may have led to creation of those tapes. Instead, it focused on technical anomalies in the video itself. Here we go. Technical anomalies in the video itself that led to the determination that we now believe they are not from an original unmodified Donkey Kong arcade PCB.
So I basically what they found was like if you went frame by frame, you just saw it on screen here. When you enter a new stage, the game very quickly draws all the graphics in, and just the order in which it draws the things on screen is just different than the order that MAME draws it in. And so somebody just looked at it frame by frame and said, this is MAME and not an original board.
Well, much of, let's see. While much of the Twin Galaxies complaint focuses on the heavily discussed issues surrounding Mitchell's Donkey Kong tapes, the complaint goes farther in alleging that Mitchell and Day sought to suppress scores from other competitors. Yeah, we saw it. We saw it in the movie.
Kidding.
Suppress scores from other competitors and alter rules in order to secure Mitchell's position atop the scoreboards. This includes allegedly rejecting claims from other players who had achieved a perfect Pac-Man score prior to Mitchell's 1999 record.
No!
That allegation, which has made the rounds in high score circles for years, would undercut Mitchell's claim to fame as the first to reach that lofty goal.
Oh, hey, speaking of Pac-Man, by the way, you know, it just came out recently.
What's up?
Pac-Man 99.
But then...
That's a good game.
We gotta go here because this is more recent. After this comes out, Guinness reinstates Billy Mitchell's Donkey Kong high score world record. Video game legend Billy Mitchell has had a high score record for Pac-Man and Donkey Kong reinstated by Guinness World Records after more than 2 years.
I remember hearing about that.
I also remember hearing about this. The records came under scrutiny in 2018 when Twin Galaxies International Scoreboard concluded that the records were not legitimate after undergoing an investigation. It concluded that the record for Donkey Kong was achieved on modified hardware, rendering the score illegitimate. Twin Galaxies partnered with Guinness to verify the video game records. The decision by Guinness to reinstate the records comes just over 2 years. This is 6 months after the last article that we read. Comes 2 years after the decision to expunge his records from their database, a move that prompted Billy Mitchell to sue Twin Galaxies. The original decision was based heavily on video evidence by Twin Galaxies, which showed apparent signs of emulator use. Twin Galaxies remains behind its decision to revoke Billy Mitchell's records, including resulting in a split from Guinness.
Wow.
So Mitchell appeared, and
so
a new investigation by Guinness using
Guinness...
existing evidence and new eyewitness testimony.
What the
so
fuck?
This is just fake as hell.
What the fuck skin does Guinness have in this game that they're willing to split with their video game organization over this guy's scores?
I don't know. It's so weird. Guinness concluded there was insufficient evidence to prove with sufficient certainty that Mitchell's performance was illegitimate.
Huh. Maybe
they just must
like,
not know.
Listen, we got rules and this doesn't break them. Kind of thing.
But stuff like this breaks Guinness rules all the time. The moment you see the score cross 1 million, there's like a full third of a second frame disappear. You cannot see the score tick up. It just happens. And by the way, it ticks up by several thousand. Like, it's not like a quick hundo.
Are you sure? Just the way?
Yeah, I watched. I paused it to make sure.
180 points he needed to go over. I just keep.
I'll double check.
I guess what I come back to is like, I felt like if there was more to that tape being obviously fake, we would have gotten more like zaprudering of it in the documentary than we got, because we just got that like close up on the score, and it always just kind of seemed like, isn't the close up on that score look weird? But then again, it was a one-time play only, wasn't it? So maybe they just had what they had.
They wouldn't let anyone see it after that.
Right. Yeah.
One-time play only. What are you talking about?
Yeah. No, sorry, it was a one-time play only. Oh man.
Yeah. So it seems like total horseshit that his thing is.
I'm starting to think he killed Doris Self himself. I love the shot of her.
A large component in reversing the decision came from the analysis of Robbie Lakeman, who currently holds the record for highest score in Donkey Kong. Lakeman claimed that after reviewing the video evidence originally used by Twin Galaxies and reproducing similar gameplay himself, he found no reason to suspect that Mitchell's performances were illegitimate.
That's stupid.
That is stupid.
It basically sounds like he's just saying, trust me, MAME is so good, there's no difference, which, like, I'm already on record earlier in this thing of having basically agreed with that, but it doesn't, if the rules say you can't use MAME and you use MAME and lie about it, the fucking score doesn't count,
But even that, it doesn't say you can't use MAME. It says you can use MAME, you just have to tell us.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. You can't use MAME for the original hardware leaderboard.
But I feel like that's so permissive. I guess he wouldn't have beat. That's
his thing. He's the original hardware guy, so he doesn't care about getting at the top of the MAME leaderboard. He probably can't even do it, because when anyone can compete in MAME instead of needing to own a cabinet, probably the competition is steeper.
Yeah.
What is that? Can we
high score is?
Go check the MAME high score. Is it different?
I'll go to Twin. I can't even believe Twin Galaxy still exists.
Hey, it's an institution. It's immortalized in classic documentary film, The King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters.
We all always knew. I don't know how to. I don't even know how to find this. Order by D.
The average gamer in Donkey Kong will never make it past the 3rd elevator stage.
How do you even... I don't even know how to navigate this website. Okay. View leaderboards. Okay. I don't even know. It says platforms. Like, I'm supposed to know what kind of machine Donkey Kong is on. I have no idea.
Huh. Like,
let's see. Like, if it says platforms, if I scroll down to Donkey Kong, there's nothing there. So
right. Go to Nintendo. Read out if there's any that start with Nintendo. I'll tell you if any of them ring familiar to me. I don't know.
Okay, here we go. Donkey Kong Arcade. Here we go. I found it. Oh, wait. MAME. Donkey Kong MAME. Okay, there's almost 3 times as many MAMEs rankings as arcade cabinet.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
Right now, that's interesting. So right now, John McCurdy on arcade cabinet hardware holds the high score of 1.272 million, and Justin Elliott holds the MAME record of 1.206 million. So it's lower. And John McCurdy holds the number 2 spot with 1.185 million. So it seems like they're close, and
Okay, they're close.
They're close, and it doesn't seem like MAME is better, even though there's more people. I guess the people that are that into Donkey Kong just buy a Donkey Kong machine.
Yeah, maybe.
Like what is it? $800? I mean, that's a lot of money. But if your thing is becoming the best in the world at Donkey Kong, you probably can figure out how to get $800 for a machine.
To go even further than this, I recently watched this video on YouTube that was basically it was like somebody who was really into speed running was like, I want to tell you the story of a weird speed running category in Spyro and the history of it. And they're talking about all these, different records, who found what skip at what time to improve the record by such and such. And they also had this thing where like, it's like, it's a PS1 game, but playing it in an emulator is slower than playing it on a PS2, because a PS2 had like built-in hardware features to speed up the loading of PS1 games. So you can save like 45 seconds per run if you play on a PS2 real hardware instead of emulating a PS1. And like you had, at least one or like a few people like going really fucking hard on this Spyro category and like setting records on PS1 emulation. And I'm like, just buy a PS2. Like, right? Like, if you've got the fucking world record on this game, just get the real game and save yourself 45 seconds. It's just weird to me that someone would dedicate themselves to something, that takes hundreds and hundreds of hours and not just go pay $30 to have the real thing.
1,500. That is how many points it skips.
1,500.
1,500. Yeah.
You can. There's like an end of level bonus, so it could have been that.
Let's see. They show it from further away. Let's see.
I need to, by the way, the lawyer guy wrote a book called like How to Win at Donkey Kong or something. So I got to go buy that, learn all the tricks.
Yeah.
Because we all know, I can show off the one thing, because they tell you in the movie about controlling the barrels on one of the ladders here on this level. It's that if you're standing to the left of this ladder and you make a hard right at it, the barrels will go down the ladder instead of over it. Whoop. So I think this one should go down. Nope. That didn't work. Oh, I was doing it earlier. What happened? Oh, well, that one went.
When he asked for the tape again, and they're like, no, you can't.
Yeah, can I see the... Because that's the other thing. They played that tape of Billy Mitchell's performance while Steve was in the middle of playing his own game on the real machine, so he couldn't go see the tape. He's like, hey, can I see the tape? Like, no, one play only. Sorry, bud. Bullshit. Let's see.
Yeah. Luckily, he had the tape from the documentarians filming it.
Yeah, right.
That's something. Oh, yeah, they do show him playing his thing and then going to ask for it. Wow. I had no idea. One play only.
Yeah.
I love God, Steve, he's such a timid guy. He seems like such a timid guy.
He really is. It's so funny. They show a couple times like him trying to call someone on the phone, and it's like so painful.
Yeah. But like he gets his one thing. He has his one little insult that he says a few different times that I thought was really funny, where he like sort of mutters to the camera like he's always talking about live play. You got a live play. Now he's Mr. Videotape.
Yeah, now he's Mr. Videotape. Yeah.
He calls him Mr. Videotape 3 times. So funny.
Oh, really? I thought it was just once.
No, he says it 3 times. Yeah, he calls him Mr. Videotape in 3 different scenes.
It is true. I mean, it's incredible. They say that they can't accept his tape score because he has to come into go and play a machine in public to set it on a public machine like Billy Mitchell always has. And while he's in the middle of doing this, Billy Mitchell submits a videotape. And
by the way, I mentioned this earlier, but okay. Let me pause it here because I finally found the big cut forward that I was talking about.
I'm breaking my silence.
Steve Wiebe lives 3,000 miles away from where all this stuff is happening. Every time he flies out, it's like a vacation that he's got to take.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Billy lives in New Hampshire. Well, he lives 10 minutes away from this place.
No, he lives in Florida, I think. It's just that the second one that they do is like in Florida.
You're okay. That's what it was. Yeah. But so Steve's still got to fly 3,000 miles. But
so Steve flew. Steve at the end of the movie, Steve flies to Billy Mitchell's backyard, and Billy Mitchell only makes an appearance because all of his friends are like, "Get over here, you idiot! This is for a movie you're in." Like this,
there's so many scenes of him just like sitting on the couch, like fielding phone calls.
Yeah. But he does record himself on the other end of the phone calls so that they can put it in the movie.
Yes. Yeah.
Very good.
Oh, there's a film guy. There's a crew there. I mean, I don't know if there's a crew. There's at least someone taping.
It might just, there's a couple spots where Steve Wiebe is recording himself with a camera at home too, so it just seemed like.
All right, here we go. So Walter Day is on the phone in his little ref costume with Billy, being like, "Hey, so like, what's up with a couple little weird spots on that tape?" And he's like, "Well, it's not the master, it's a copy." And then they show he's at the bottom of the floor. He's the bottom of the level. He's just jumping over barrels. That's all that's going on. He's at 15,800 score, and then half the screen cuts out, and he's only at 16. Now he's at 16. So that looks legit, except for that it looks. I don't know. Where did that other 100 come from?
Could have been a flying erase head. That's it
came from a second barrel. It skipped. It just like missed a few seconds of film. I don't know about this.
I'm obsessed with Robert Rucksack.
Oh, that guy's so funny.
I see world records set in my bedroom, and not just once or twice. We're talking every night. It's very exciting.
Okay, so that's enough of looking at this for me.
Yeah, that's enough King of Kong discussion. But people don't really need to see it now.
Kong now?
What? Oh no, I mean, hey, if you got more, we can keep going. But people don't need to see the movie now because we've described the entire thing for them. But it's a great time. You got to watch
what
it.
Else
it's
are we gonna do?
Total, like honestly, like required. If you're a person who cares about video games, TM, gotta watch King of Kong.
I don't think that this is prohibitive for watching the movie. I knew almost all of the plot beats of this before watching.
You gotta watch it.
Yeah.
You gotta hear Mr. Awesome talk about Steve Wiebe not trumpetizing himself.
Oh, and speaking of no one getting paid, by the way, Mitchell and Day's alleged manipulation and lying about old scores has become a legal matter, the counterclaim states, in part because the pair represented and warranted in the purchase agreement that the Twin Galaxies score database does not contain any untrue or misleading statements of fact. The alleged lies led to a loss of value of assets purchased from old Twin Galaxies, particularly a loss of value in the Twin Galaxies score database because of association with the fraudulent scores. That alleged fraud also fomented distrust in many of these important communities toward Twin Galaxies by diminishing its value.
Yeah.
Beyond the score education allegations, the counterclaim accuses Mitchell and Day of mismanaging funds of old Twin Galaxies to quote, treat the assets of the corporation as their own by paying personal debts with the corporation's funds.
Wow. Now we know where the money was going.
What's that?
Now we know where the money was going.
Now we know where the money was going.
When Billy Mitchell's like, oh yeah, we don't draw a paycheck. Yeah, fuck you, Billy.
Treat the as
you don't draw a paycheck, you just draw checks for anything you want to.
Funds with those of the corporation, made promises of stock offerings that it never intended to keep, and stiffed creditors on multiple debts. Yeah. Okay.
Surprising.
So
no, by the way,
that is also extended to a previous sale of the Twin Galaxies assets to Peter Bouvier. That $200,000 sale was reversed. The counterclaim alleges when Mitchell and Day, quote, took control of the Twin Galaxies score database from Peter Bouvier by exercising undue influence over him while he was incapacitated with Alzheimer's disease.
What?
Jesus Christ.
Wow, these guys. So that was the other thing was watching this movie again, just for all the things that have happened with Billy Mitchell since the movie, there can no longer be any doubt about what a terrible person he is, and that's why, before it was like, is this just the greatest hatchet job of all time? And now it's like, no, Billy Mitchell's a total piece of shit.
Yeah, total piece of shit.
Yeah. So that's the King of Kong. Keith, you been playing any video games?
Yeah, I played a little. I finished. I told you last week that I finished Yakuza 2 finally.
Oh, and you said, you did say earlier that you played like 90 minutes of Yakuza 3.
Yes, which is the first Yakuza that I've played besides our failed Yakuza 1 Let's Play that it isn't a remake.
Yeah. You played 0 and then Kiwami and Kiwami 2, which were all released in that order. This is your first time going back in time.
Yeah.
But not going back in time.
It feels that way. It's not so bad.
I heard it was a slow start. So
you heard it was a what?
I heard it had a slow start.
It right now is there's characters that I like, and not a lot of interesting stuff has happened. But I'm very early. I'm maybe not even 90 minutes in, maybe more like an hour. Between 60 and 90 minutes. That's kind of all that I've been doing. I've been like trying to I have been trying to move or unpack in a way that is like reasonable. I had so much like packing and shit to get done, and it was like I was just so tired.
I took so long to fully unpack. I really haven't even done it.
Yeah.
Like I did all of it, like I did half of it right away, and then I just had more of my stuff, like you said, that just sat out in my house in boxes for months and months and months.
Yeah, and I really don't want to do that. I didn't fully unpack when I moved from this building to my last place, the house that I just moved from. There was in our bedroom there was a few boxes that just never got unpacked, and I have been like, I did a lot of work to get rid of a lot of stuff, even though I moved into a bigger place, but I wanted to get rid of a lot of the junk that we had, which was so much. So like that was a ton of work, and then I just like want to get everything put in its place finally. So that is what I've been focusing on, which means that because of the moving stuff, where we were supposed to start moving on like a Thursday or Friday, so that Isaac could help Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And instead, we weren't able to get started through midway on Saturday, and then Sunday rained. And so the bulk of what Isaac was able to help with was on that Saturday, and then had work all week. So I basically ended up doing like the whole house on my own, with Isaac just helping unload stuff and bringing it up to the new place. And so it was just like, I mean, it was like an 80-hour job, basically. Because it was so last minute, because we thought we were going to buy the house until the last minute.
Right. Yeah.
Get a chance to, like, pack. So we had to do all the packing and moving at the same time. That sucked. It was bad.
It does suck.
But we're basically done. And, yeah, I haven't been doing anything because any second I have to not be, like, doing moving stuff has been, like, sitting on the couch doing nothing.
Yeah, decompression. I've been playing a lot of Monster Hunter.
Oh yeah,
I know you're surprised.
Monhun?
Yeah, I've been playing some Monhun. It finally had been out for 2 weeks, so I could see how many hours I have put into it. And I think last week I estimated about 50, and afterwards was like, oh, that was probably pretty high. It's probably more like 30, 35, something like that. I now have like 95 hours in that game. Like it was when the hour count unlocked 4 days after the previous snooze button, it was 85, and I've played like 15 more hours since then. But I'm like done with it now. I've played like all of the content that is currently in the game, basically. Like at least in terms of like the monsters and the story stuff. And I guess I'm good until some expansion stuff is coming out in a month. Or DLC, not like expansion.
They will have an expansion though, probably, right?
They will, yeah. And so like I'm currently at in Monster Hunter, you don't have a level, you have a rank, which really just means like what levels you can take on. You don't have like a power level like you do in an RPG. But as it is in the game now, the highest rank is 7, which is very low. And so this is my first time ever at the rank cap for Monster Hunter, because they're gonna like unlock the rank at the end of the month, and then this isn't me. Basically, they're gonna remove that cap at the end of the month, and then people are gonna be at Hunter rank 247, and I'll probably just stay at 7. But
they're gonna unlock it, like fully unlock. They're just increasing the cap to 15 or something.
Yeah, no, I think like up until rank 7, your rank determines what content you can play, and then after that, I think you can just play everything, and your rank is just like how much you done played this game. And Monster Hunter players, oh boy, do they play that game! Let me tell you, they sure do.
People say that in Mario, in Donkey Kong, what you're trying to do is save the princess.
Well, it's Pauline.
But is she not a princess?
I don't think so.
Okay.
She's just Mario's girlfriend. Later, the mayor of New Donk City. We all know it. We're all proud of her.
Oh, she's not a monarch. It's an elected position.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why Pauline's better than Peach, and we know why.
So it seems like what we want to do is rescue Pauline.
Right.
But is actually it not to see how high you can go?
Yeah, and I mean, is it not even how high you can try?
How high can you get?
Yeah, I know this. I was normally I like to play the Japanese version, not just because it says how high you try, but also because it has a more even level distribution. But I'm playing the international version here because that's the version that they're playing in the King of Kong, so it's just appropriate.
The question being,
yep.
Why does it not say how much can you save your girlfriend?
Right. Yeah.
Like, how would Mario be doing this whether or not Pauline was taken? Is Pauline really taken?
Is Mario just like how? Because I guess we're Pauline's at the top, Mario's at the bottom, and he's climbing up to her, and we can see that they have some affection between them, but are we maybe reading too much into the situation? Is it really just Pauline is dating Donkey Kong, and Mario's just trying to see how high he can try, and like every time he tries higher, Donkey Kong's like, oh, bummer, come on, Pauline, let's get out of here, and he climbs up a little higher?
And it is funny that, as far as I know, Mario never tries higher than Donkey Kong does.
I don't know.
Because the game ends on that kill screen, and you get killed while Donkey Kong has tried a full screen higher.
That's true.
So no matter, and is maybe that not what this game is about? How no matter how high you can try, someone always can try a little bit higher.
No matter how high you try, there's always a Donkey Kong kill screen coming up.
And maybe this is what King of Kong was trying to teach us.
What was it trying to teach us, Keith?
That no matter how high you can try, someone always can try a little higher. Do you want to hear a fun little note about Steve Wiebe?
Yes.
In December 2009, he released a contemporary Christian album, The King of Song.
What is it?
The King of Song. How funny is that?
That's really funny. I might have heard about that and then erased it from my memory.
Well, you can go to Patreon and support the show at youtube.com. No, at contentburger.biz.
Patreon.com/runbutton. See you next week. How high can you get? They censored Donkey